Greetings, travelers. Once again, I am the Reverend Victor S. Johnson, and I've been places you've only read about. This, as always, is my little sidekick, Dudley, and we're back with another question of the week, where us paranormies try to answer the supernatural questions of you normies. And what do we have this week, Dudley? Has a ghost ever been seen by more than one person at the same time? Hey, here's one that doesn't seem like a joke. Let's give it an answer regardless. It's an unequivocal yes, both officially and unofficially. Let me go into a couple of citations. We'll start with the Miracle of the Sun in Portugal, 1917. How this account all started ironically begins with a completely different vision shared by 3 children. In 1916, the children told anyone who would listen that an angel had appeared to them, and then in 1917, the Virgin Mary would appear. According to Wikipedia, the Virgin Mary told the children that there would be a miracle that would bring about the end of the First World War. That miracle was scheduled for October 13th, 1917. The day of the 13th brought an ugly rain with it, as tens of thousands gathered in QotW for the event. When the rain slowed and the clouds parted, all of these people marveled as the sun began to dance. That's right, it danced. The sun grew large as if it barreled towards the spectators, and then shrank as if it ran away. Allegedly, it also turned several different colors, including yellow, purple, red, and silver. The miracle lasted for an estimated 10 minutes. The modern skeptic cites this as a case of mass folie à deux. Take that as you will, traveler. Next, we have the Sheppton mine disaster in August of 1963. On August 13th, there's the 13th again, traveler. 3 miners were trapped in a mine in Sheppton, Pennsylvania, after it collapsed. Rescue attempts began with drilling a borehole down into the mine until 2 men, Henry Throne and David Vellon, were in a narrow chamber in shock, but alive. According to Wikipedia, several more holes were drilled, including the most enormous and final hole, thanks to financial efforts from billionaire Howard Hughes. To date, the 3rd miner, Louis Bova, has never been recovered. In subsequent interviews, Thorne and Felon relayed similar stories in which they were visited while still trapped in the mine by Pope John XXIII, who had died that same year before the collapse of the mine. They had also reported stairways to heaven and crosses in their shared vision. Once again, skeptics refer to this as a case of folie à deux. And just for you, traveler, I have some personal, second-hand tales of the unofficial capacity. It's time we traveled back to Gettysburg. Mr. G's is a delicious ice cream parlor in Gettysburg off of Baltimore Street, a few blocks south of the town center, traveler. Way back when, during the battle, it was a tannery. It's allegedly haunted, like many of the buildings in this area, which might come with Gettysburg's reputation as a hotbed of spiritual activity. However, there's a story that I was told that alleges a mass vision of an apparition. Ironically, it involves a ghost tour group. Most of the ghost tour groups in town used to gather at Unity Park, which has a marker dedicated to the former superintendent of exhuming corpses, Samuel Weaver. Eventually, they all spread out because tour groups would end up on the wrong tour several times over. Now, I'll do my best to relay this to you, as it was relayed to me by another guide. Before the popularization of the cell phone, it started when one of the guests looked over at Mr. G's and saw a sickly green light emanating from one of the windows. The only issue was that Mr. G's had closed about a half an hour before this. The guest slaps a friend on the shoulder who in turn looks at the same window, and then they told everyone in the group, an estimated dozen people or so, about the window, and everyone looked over. From that green light, a Confederate soldier crouched into view from inside the ice cream parlor. He was translucent, but his features were still very detailed. Soldier peered through the window for 2 or 3 minutes and then vanished into the green glow, which then dissipated with the worst timing in the world. The guide finally showed up to give the tour. I wasn't informed how the tour went from there, traveler, but I can always speculate that it paled in comparison. My other story comes to me from a guide at the Jenny Wade House, farther south but still on Baltimore Street. Jenny was the only civilian casualty of the battle when a bullet struck through 2 doors and hit her in the back while she baked loaves of bread for Union Army soldiers at the oven in the kitchen. Her killer was never found. The house is a hotbed of spiritual activity, some of which I can confirm personally, but this guy told me that as she gave a tour outside once, which would have been the same spot where this above photo was taken, a group of tourists began to shout at her and begged her to stop. In the upper windows, according to the guests, a woman in Victorian-era clothing looked out from the window on the right and down at them. No one else was in the house at the time, allegedly. So once again, to answer this question, traveler, yes, multiple people can have the same visual spiritual encounter. In some cases it's documented, and in other cases, it's just an old ghost story. I'll let you be the judge. Once again, I am the Reverend Victor S. Johnson. This is my sidekick, Dudley. Safe travels, traveler.